Hello and welcome to the On Par podcast. Today, joining me, Greg Sharp, founder and CEO of Zen Contractors, none other than the one and only, one of my faves, Mr. James Bergl from Bluebird. How are you doing, Jimmy?
Sharpie, very well, and great to be here with you today. Always an honor.
Well, today we're going to be talking about a topic dear and near to both of our hearts, but certainly yours in being sales. You are the commensurate salesman and the sales leader, and certainly one in our industry in this neck of the woods that's put together some elite sales teams and has run them to great aplomb with massive results, and are now helping MSPs and vendors alike recruit and build sales teams. So when one sets out to get a podcast together and get experts on it, you're pretty much what I had in mind, if you weren't the only thing I had in mind.
Well, that's very flattering of you to say so. Yeah, look, it's been a little while since I had my career win, as I call it, at Data, which is where I had the opportunity to come in as a founding account executive and a player coach, and then built up a team there. We went from sort of initially a pot of 4 to about 130 that we had in place just before Kaseya bought us at that moment in time. But yeah, I had a tremendous amount of fun in that stage of my life. And one of the things I'm proudest of is, from a sales leadership perspective, is when I look at I had 4 sales managers rolling into myself when I finished up there, and each one of them has gone on to be a senior sales leader at other SaaS organizations, and that's something I'm really proud of, and that's a testament to the academy, the school of hard knocks that we all went through, grinding it out together in the early days. But yeah, I'm passionate about it. I've got the Bluebird business, which is a consultancy-led recruiting firm for technology businesses today, and the consulting part of that is the passion. It's how can I help organizations to build a scalable revenue engine that is not just necessarily reliant on an individual person, high performer, founder, whatever that may be, and what are the pieces that they need to build from a foundation perspective to set themselves up for success. And yeah, that's what we do today, and that's a lot of fun. Really enjoy it.
Awesome. I was very lucky to be one of the early recruits as far as a partner, and was involved in that Datto journey through your relationship with Adam Ross at Autotask. And it was certainly a pleasure to be involved like I said, from that partner side of things. Much later on, ended up being on the advisory board, but it was an elite group of individuals with massive motivation, and weren't all elite out of the box. There was a lot of skilled learning, investment back into strategy, to how you went and executed as you grew the team from 5 to 15 to 50 and upwards. And that kind of is a nice little segue into what we're trying to achieve here. Zen Contract's a tool that helps MSPs put contracts in place, clearly get them signed and stuff, but it's also a sales tool in enabling some automation around getting services in front of their end customers and getting those agreements signed off, and then managing the renewals. So one of the first things I wanted to pick your brains on was, when you're helping with consulting into some MSPs and potentially helping founder-led salespeople who potentially don't even really know whether they've got a system. They're just charismatic and they're passionate about their business, and they'll pick up the phone and make phone calls. How do you help them transition to the next phase where it's process-led sales and is not necessarily all about them? I know that's something that Pete Eldon's doing. Is Bluebird doing a little bit of recruitment in that space for the SDRs or whatever you think is the first steps?
Yeah, we are. We've been doing some recruitment of SDRs, junior account executives, account managers for MSPs. And overall, I would say we've had decent success. But yeah, it's interesting. When I was in Vendorland, and you're very narrow focused in terms of this is my business, my model, my sales team, etc. You don't have a wide perspective of all angles. So I've spoken a lot on building a winning sales team, but what I've found over, and I say this now, having been doing what I've been doing for the last year, there's a few other ingredients that I would, if I had my time again, I would represent on what needs to be in place. And let me share what I mean by that. And part of that comes from, I call it, the blinkers are on. I was in a really fortunate position at a company like Datto. They had product market fit. We had leads. We went to events. We had sponsorship dollars. We went to the likes of the ConnectWise HTG or Evolve as it is now. And we got to mingle with our potential prospects. So like those are leads that I had. We had a product that was viable in the market. People wanted it. It was a good fit for what the problem of ransomware that we were looking to primarily solve back then. But what I've noticed in the world of recruiting is we've had a couple of called false starts where we've placed a person. We've done this into SaaS companies, and we've also done this into partner companies where we've gone off and we found someone that we feel is a really strong fit, and it's in alignment of the brief of what they're looking for, and what I also believe is a good fit for that business. And we've had cases where, not many, but a couple of them where 3 to 6 months out, that sales rep has left the business, either jumped or pushed. It bothers me because that's an expensive mistake for all of us. There's a lot of time and effort goes into this for everyone. So I really drilled in, and I did post departure interviews and had conversations. A lot of the time, the finger gets pointed at the sales rep as they haven't done a good enough job, they're not good enough, they've taken the MSP for a ride. And look, I think a lot of that has happened, and it can happen, and it does happen. But there's also a number of responsibilities that the hiring company needs to embed in how they operate as well. And let me give you a few examples of what I've noticed. And this is conversations of, hey, what was great and what wasn't great. And some of these are candidates that I've met and spent time with that I haven't even been engaged with, but I just love chatting and learning what's happening and what's working, etc. in this space. But sometimes a sales rep comes on and they have, like, the obvious one is a completely unrealistic compensation plan. So they come in and they say that I want to hit this. The founder, the owner says, go off and hit your sales target, and if you hit that, you can have the agreed OTE that we agreed. So you can have your at-risk variable component. That was literally that number. That target was plucked out of thin air. They just said, I'd love it if my sales reps can go sell, just give them a high target and they'll go deliver on that. It needs to be more thoughtful from that. It needs to be realistic, and you need to be able to demonstrate, articulate, and quantify how can anyone go from where you are today to hit that number. And if you can't do that, then it's unrealistic to expect a sales rep to get there. The other piece of this is if you have a really good sales rep is typically not necessarily motivated by making the most amount of money. Everyone that wants to be successful and make money, but most sales reps, and I surveyed my entire team when I was at Data on this, money is not the number one driver. It's actually a sense of success and a sense of achievement. And if you're a sales rep and you feel like, hey, my target's, call it $500,000, and I'm sitting at $50,000, you feel like a failure, and you feel like you've been unsuccessful, and you have this anxiety on, I'm not doing well, is this me? You have self-doubt, and you get nervous, I'm going to get fired because I'm not hitting my number. Some cases, not all, but a lot of cases, they were never set up to be successful in the first place. So like that's one thing is a commission plan. Another thing is, it's a little bit tied to that is, does the business, whether it's a services business like an MSP or a SaaS business, have leads coming through the door already? If you've got leads, that's a good sign that there's an interest in your product or service, which means that you've got a viable product or service to sell. If you don't have any leads, then that's actually something that you should probably solve before you go out there and hire a sales rep. Because a sales rep their core responsibility is to capture demand, not create it. It's the function of marketing to create demand. I'm not saying a sales rep shouldn't be doing their own lead generation, but it's a partnership in terms of how marketing and sales work together. And if you don't have a marketing person, as a small business, I really believe you've got a responsibility for investing in some sort of demand generation activity that can set that salesperson up and actually execute on the opportunities you've got in your pipeline. Another failure that I see is there's no enablement or onboarding plan. It's, hey, come into my business and here's the keys, off you go. See if you can go hit that big number I've just given you. But there's no training on the systems, the process, the value proposition, the customers, any of that sort of information. And it's really tricky for a sales rep to just create all of that themselves. And actually, again, if you just take a moment and say, let's invest in 6 weeks of whether we do it ourselves or get a consultant to build this out, we've got a 3-month or 6-month enablement plan, training, and some measured KPIs of what should be achieved within a time period. That just gives guardrails for that sales rep to go along. And it also provides a measuring stick for, hey, we're at 30 days, have you achieved what we mutually agreed would be the goal and the KPI, key performance indicator.
It'd be fair to say is that a really high percentage of all companies, whether they're MSPs or vendors or whatever, for their first hire, don't have that, right? And it is a significant fail. So, because you're right, you've hit the nail right on the head, is that for that person to be successful, they need to have a set of instructions. They need to understand all the softwares. They need to, right down to the silly stuff was, know when they're supposed to turn up and know what the dress code is and all that type of stuff. If you can get all that structured in the early phase, then you only have to do it once because it will be the same for the next hire, or your first hire can hone it on what was good, better, and different for ready for the second hire, right? But getting that up front is a really
It is really important, and the reality is these entrepreneurs and founders that have built these businesses. They're on one side they're a genius, and it takes real guts to go out there and build something from scratch yourself. But particularly if they're technical run businesses, technical founders, they don't have that go-to-market experience of like how do you instill that. So you do need to lean on someone that has got that experience. And just to finish off on like the next flow of that is where I've seen failures is management cadence or rhythm and sales management rhythm. So let's say you bring someone in, whether they're junior or senior, you need to have a mechanism of managing them. And you can't just bring them in and say, go. It is your responsibility to make sure that you're having one-to-ones, you're understanding what's working, what's not, what are the roadblocks for success. This is a two-way street, demonstrates that you're committed and interested in their success, but it also is going to identify red flags really early on if someone's not doing the fundamentals. But one of my favorite sayings was expect what you expect. So if you're expecting this person to deliver X results, then inspect it, sit down with them and review that and have that cadence. And this is where I've worked really well with Peter Eldon, because he's come into some MSPs that we're both friends with in the region. And he's what I would describe as a fractional sales manager. So he'll come in on a part-time basis and help to hire the sales reps, but then be there on a weekly basis to do one-to-ones with them, look at their performance, look at their activity, and call a spade a spade. If they're doing the right thing, reward them, and if they're not, then give them a little shoe in line, and also be the one to call bullshit if required. So those are the ingredients that I think you really need to have a foundation of before you invest in a sales rep. And let's just say Aussie dollars, you're going to be paying probably, depending on the seniority, between a junior at probably $75,000 to a more senior at 150, even more on the base, and then potentially double that again for their variable. Like that's a really, really expensive mistake if you get it wrong. And it would cost a fraction of that to actually get someone in for a period of time just to embed that foundation in the first place, and then even have them on a retainer on a part-time basis if you don't have that in-house capability to optimize them once you've hired them.
Yeah, really good segue into the next point I wanted to make. So on your advice, let's assume that you've got an MSP with 15 people, still founder-led sales, wants to transition into whatever the next phase is, right? So we've discussed getting someone in with the knowledge to be able to help on comp plan, where's leads coming from, capture versus create, management cadence. Let's say you've got some of that stuff in place. What's your advice on hiring someone junior, medium, or senior for a higher set of success, both in the fact that the founder probably hasn't run salespeople before either? So yeah, I want your opinion on that.
Yeah, it's, they're two different. I'm not sure if a car is the right analogy, but you've got two different engines here. They're different capabilities, purposes, and tools for the business. A junior person will not cost you as much money to get them in. However, their experience is lacking. So if you're going to hire a junior person, it's even more critical that you've got everything that we just talked about in place. Otherwise, they're going to go off rails. If you're going for someone slightly more senior, then you're going to pay a higher premium. However, you still need to have some of those other functions in place. Again, junior roles, I think it's an amazing opportunity to get into tech sales by starting off in a junior SDR type role, which is lead generation, some warm calling, some cold calling. And then once you've demonstrated some success and learned your trade and earned your stripes, then you can step up into a quota carrying role. I really think there's a place for that in the business. However, if you've got a finite set of resources, you realistically need someone that's got some capability and experience in closing deals and being able to sell to the type of customers that you're you're selling to.
That's the trade-off, isn't it? If you've got these things in place, I've always thought getting someone to be able to set up appointments and then get the founder to close deals, or the get that whole cadence and rhythm going of either lead creation or lead generation, and then setting up an appointment and put your boss into the appointment, maybe sit in with them and learn how they close and learn how they get going, and then you can go along on that. I think that's incredibly fundamental. What you said is invest in getting some of that structure in place before you even put an ad out, and it's around the comp plan, leads. How are you going to manage them? Make sure you invest in spending time writing a position description to then go and hire against, which would have some KPIs in it, which will help you allow you to measure the success of that person when they come on board.
Just on that note of writing a job description, like I learned this idea recently, so I can't coin it as my own, but I really like it, so I'll share it. There's a SaaS firm that we're working with in Sydney, and they had a new sales leader come in place, and they've been struggling to find the right account executives for their business. And what he did is he actually went and they did a personality test. So looking at the personality traits of all of their existing sales team and the people within the business. And they said, who is performing well? And let's have a look at the traits and the personality traits of those that perform well in this business. And let's actually, rather than compliment them in a small business, let's actually double down. Let's look at what thrives in this environment. Let's actually go out there and find more people that have got those particular traits. And then they extracted some of those key personality aspects and then embedded that into the job description moving forward, so that it really spoke to the nuances and particulars of a particular character and personality. I like that. And that's something
that's
as well.
That's taking that research to the next level, right? So I heard something similar it's a slightly off topic. Someone was trying to take their restaurant from 50th in the world to first in the world. So they went to the restaurant with their team on the first of the world and got everyone to have a look at what that restaurant was doing not so well. It was 95 things they were doing well. Tell me the 5 things they weren't doing well. And then they went back to the 50th restaurant and tripled down on those things that weren't as good and made them amazing, and they worked their way up through the ranks. But I mean, that's not quite exactly aligned with exactly what you're saying. We want to get like-minded qualities that are succeeding in that particular industry.
I think the point is you're being thoughtful. You're not just going to ChatGPT and say, build me a resume. You're actually going through some sort of, there's a lot of them out there, personality psychometric type tests. You're understanding what are your strengths and weaknesses as an organization, and that's
do you think there's some merit in that, and actually if you were being very honest with yourself as a founder, because you're the only person in the sales team and you're taking a leap of faith to start building 1 person and 2 people and 3 and starting down that journey, is to hiring someone that might augment your skills a bit or your lack of skills? I mean, I know when I went from 1 person to 2, I got someone that was quite admin heavy because I wasn't. And then that really complemented as a pair, and then the 2 of us said, right, well, what skills do we need to make an awesome 3? And like you said, being quite deliberate about it, being a little bit vulnerable and just putting on a piece of paper what we weren't good at.
Yeah, I think that's really fair, and you've got an opportunity. And the other thing I comment on is when you're hiring a person in a small business, you're not really hiring just a dedicated person that wears a single hat. I'm a BDM, I'm an account manager. They're realistically going to have to wear multiple hats. They're going to have to be comfortable working in grey, with ambiguity, with lack of process, without loads of investment in a pre-sales arrangement. So that's true for sure. And
how does it go with let's say an SDR? I mean, the types of traits you're going to go and look for from them, they're relatively early on in their career. They're kind of somewhat vivacious. They're willing to pick up that phone. They're self-motivated. They probably have a hunger for a bit of adulation, a bit of success. They're willing to go through quite a lot of mud to get to that success. I mean, this particular vocation is full of requirements for resilience, isn't it? I mean, you're going to get told no a lot.
It is. I want to bring it back a little bit. And if we say, rather than even looking at covering my gaps or finding a resilient person, like that's not wrong. I think you should do that. But also, let's have a conversation on what is your business goal for 12 months, 24 months, and what are you trying to achieve? And it's probably, I want to grow, yes, but like, are we looking at top line growth? Are we looking at bottom line revenue? Are we looking at new logo acquisition? Are we looking at building an empire? Are we just looking at running a business where I can step away and go play golf 2 days a week and just have someone to tick it over? So all of those, like your goals of what you're looking to build within, I call it even 12 months, 24 months, that outlook, I think is going to play into the sort of team that you want to start building today. If you are looking for, we're a $2 million business today and we want to grow to $5 million, I would have a look at what does our client base look like today? What percentage of that 3 million deficit can we extract out of our existing customers? If there's a lot there, then actually it may make sense to invest in someone that's really competent at the upsell, cross-sell piece. If you can't get there with your existing book and like new logos are an absolute requirement, then a new business engine is most likely going to be required. So I would think it's really important to think about where you want to be and then like reverse engineer it. You can even do it in a spreadsheet if you wanted to, but that will help to find the right sort of people. But coming back to the SDR, it's really, really unlikely that you're going to find anyone. There may be 1% of them out there, of people that just want to be an SDR. It's a sucky job. Like, it's not a lot of fun.
It's a stepping stone job, isn't it? It's a stepping stone to move into advanced tech sales.
And for that reason, if you're a small business, small services business, an MSP, and you don't have that career progression, that person's going to see that within a few months and probably term out. So that's why, like, if you don't have growth for that person, it may make sense that you're realistically just partner with an effective SDR agency that's just an appointment setter, just to get you those appointments for the more seasoned BDM. If you've got the ability, if you've got growth on your agenda and you're, say, a 15-person business, 2.5 million, you want to double that to get to 10 million. So you want to be 10 million, 50 people in the next 3 years. You will need sales, you will need lead generation in order to get there, but create that career path as well. And this is what I used to do with data, is hire people out of university, say, look, this is the job for 12 months. See, there's a 12-month assignment. It may be 10 months, it may be 14. That's the window. As soon as you're ready and the business is ready for you, we will pop you up. But absolutely, our plan is growth, and I want to hire you into that role as opposed to an external. And that was the carrot that kept them hungry. And there would be competition. And I always say, if you're going to hire an SDR, hire two if you can. Like, position yourself to hire two, because one is you've got redundancy, two, you've got competition. So you will most likely get results, and it is the lowest cost resource that you're going to hire from a BDM perspective. And at least you've got companionship, mateship, competition. And if one leaves you, then your business isn't in a complete hole.
Yeah, that's good advice. So pre-foundation is set your goals, figure out what you want to do, reverse engineer back to the type of person that you want to hire, right? And then once you've figured that out, have a look at comp plan, understand where your leads are coming from, how they're going to capture them or generate them, or a combination of both, and then have a look at what your management cadence is. How are you going to manage them? How are you going to manage their success so that they know they are being successful on the journey for the company and for themselves, making sure that it's in line with that comp plan that is attainable and regularly managed, from reporting perspective, so they know how they're getting on with their targets, right? So really good advice. Tell us a bit about Bluebird and the work that you're doing with both SaaS and MSP people out there. How do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, sure. So the business is the Bluebird brand was founded in Europe by a former colleague of mine from 12, 15 years ago at Enable. And he was a sales director in the SaaS world, worked his way up, and then set up a recruiting business, effectively. The value proposition is really designed to bridge the gap that most recruiting firms don't have. Recruiters that have done the role that they're hiring for, they're career recruiters as opposed to in-seat recruiters. So our business is formed of all ex-salespeople, SaaS salespeople that have been SDRs, account executives, account managers, sales managers. Myself, I've hired many people over the years, and you're always going to make mistakes when you've got humans in the equation. But our value proposition is that we can typically find the right person, and one of it is finding the A player. The other is what's your business's A player? It's making sure that someone is compatible for your business and is also going to be delivering results. So it's really about the matchmaking, and we feel really well poised to do that, having done it in seat as salespeople ourselves.
I mean, even given just the advice that you've touched over the last 15 or 20 minutes, 100% in line with the work that you're doing for those SaaS vendors, isn't it? I mean, helping them identify the A player, the right type of person, recruiting against that brief, more than likely helping them set up on how to manage that person ongoing? Is there a little bit of your consultancy arm? Are you doing a little bit of helping them? Because some of these are really fast growing startup companies and potentially haven't got some of these structures in place. So are you helping them with that?
A little bit. I would say a lot of what we're doing is in the lead up as well. So how can we add as much value to an organization in the preparation to hiring? And that's almost consultancy work that we're doing as part of the service. And then what we'll do is help them to hire that person and hand the keys over once they're in seat, but make sure that they've got the best chance of being successful. On the side, I am doing a little bit of go-to-market consultancy with a couple of people in my network, but that's more of a passion project than a full day-to-day business.
Excellent. Hey, I wanted to get your opinion on something that in the world of sales and selling, it's somewhat universal, this question, against whether it's MSP land or vendor land, is that what's your opinion in the diminishing amount of importance of time gone from when you first see someone and they've asked for a proposal to how long it takes to get a proposal? So it's a rather long way of saying, what's your view on the amount of time passed as to how much diminishing your chance of winning the deal is? If you're slow, you got any chance of winning the deal?
Time kills all deals, and you have to, everything. In what we do, recruiting, if you don't make a decision quickly, you will lose that candidate. You see it time and time again. People think, I'm just going to keep waiting, something might better come. Actually, I want that person. That person's already been hired. So like that happens. And then with regards to sales, if you don't follow up on a sales lead, then most likely they cool off and then you're not going to close them. And when it comes to renewing the customer, like there's no time like the present, get it out immediately and jump on it as quickly as possible. But I would imagine, and you're more of the expert here, but having a mechanism to have visibility and transparency over your contract ecosystem or life cycle is incredibly important. You can do it with thoughtful preparation and making sure that you get it out in time and strike while the iron's hot as quickly as possible.
Yeah, obviously that's my view. Zen Contract's that type of tool. So to templatize these agreements and get them out the door, whether it's a proposal, a working agreement, a master services agreement, the myriad of scope of works that we have on offer, the top of mind and preparedness and how you are perceived for being really on top of your game and good at what you do is definitely commensurate with how quick you can get the proposal out the door or the contract out the door or the scope of works back out the door. And it's in their inbox and they're like, man, they're really onto it. They know what they're doing. It's just got to have one trigger in there. It needs to have a connection to the meeting that you had. So there might have been 2 or 3 key points. As long as they are in that templatized gig to just join the dots that you listen to them during that meeting, then if you get it out to them, very quickly, you're gonna be as high a chance as possible of winning that deal.
Yeah, I think it's been proven, and I heard it recently. I'm trying to remember where. If someone waits more than a day, and this is kind of inbound leads, like their chance of closing that it's almost worth not even phoning it because the deal's gone at that moment in time. Yeah, I think if you can streamline any form of getting a contract in front of someone, I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah. We used to, pre-Zen Contract, I remember this is back in when I was running Base 2, this is only a few years ago, is that we would overcomplicate things. So we'd go and have the initial meeting, then we'd write up a bit of scope, we'd give it to a technical person, they would go to the secondary meeting, they'd come back and give some information, that would then go to the bid team, that would get written up, it would then get approved by someone, and then would go to finance for final approval, and then that would get sent out the door. And that whole thing took about 3 weeks, which we were surprised because we were giving the best, most detailed proposals and bids out there, but our close rate was less than 10%. And as soon as we sped it up, even though the bid wasn't there, the close rate was over 50%. Right, so just the speed, let alone the detail. And I'm certainly not stating that the MSP should do a shitty job and just do it fast. That's not what I'm saying. You need to have it templatized so that it's a great job with a connection to the communications that you just had before, but get it out the door fast, which just means you need to not do everyone bespoke. You need to have a system in place, and hopefully it's tied into all of your operational agreements and so your contract life cycle afterwards, because every time you get a new client as a contract to manage, which gives you an opportunity to cross-sell and upsell.
The same contract, are you able to do that not just for the initial contract as well as the renewal contract?
Yeah, so initial contract renewals, ongoing renewals plus options with the variable pricing and master services over the top. Thank you so much for asking that, James. It was very nice of you. As a segue in, but yeah, that's why the system was developed in the first stage. Look, the original system was actually just to get a contract out the door and get it signed, but for MSPs, and so it's come a long way that now it's master services agreements, scope of works, project things. Yeah, there's non-disclosure agreements, exclusions of liability if people don't want to take your advice contracts and things. There's all sorts of that types of everyday MSP agreements are in there. But
I'm just thinking here as a salesperson, because I haven't used contract myself, so just trying to visualize this. It's what you're saying is if I'm out there as a salesperson, I've got a productized service catalog of a statement of work as a managed services agreement. I can have a meeting with you and say, thanks, Sharpie, sounds great. Let me get back to the office and I'll send you something. And I can go click, click, click and have you everything we talked about in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, the workflow goes exactly like this. You would go log into the system, you choose the customer, comes directly from your PSA, you choose the template.
Yeah.
It has a number of sections in there.
Yeah.
They are preloaded with your MSP pricing. You update the quantity, update the price. It then builds the whole thing. If there is a sign-off required, it will go off and get it signed, and then it leaves the building and it's gone. If there's not one required, depending on what your rules are, you literally can have that out the door from the time you log in, 3.5 minutes max, and you've got a 7-page MSP operational agreement / proposal / smart contract, whatever you want to call it, out in the hands of your premise. There'll be an area in there for you to cut and paste the 3 variations or top of mind points, that you've put in, but that's
to get it signed
all the way through. You got a regimen of process. The look and feel is exactly in line with what marketing wants. Certain sections are locked down and others aren't, so all your legal things can't be altered. Yeah. So your business processes is exactly what you're after. And then you've got all of these automations off the back. So when it's executed, all of the filing's always all done. It automatically goes in and builds the contract into the PSA. It notifies all the right people. It stores it all in the right places. So all of that admin in the background is done. And from signature, it goes all the way through to the PSA. Billing starts, so finance is happy. Your engineering team gets automatically notified, so they know what they have to start building, and they know that the billing's already started, so they can start building it straight away. You're just massively speeding up and putting more fuel through your engine, all on the back of this contract.
What I would say is many salespeople are lazy and will look for the most efficient, quick way to do something. And if you can give a salesperson a tool that makes their life easier, then they're probably going to use it and sell more. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that's why it was built in the first place, was to eliminate the human error, get a repeatable process, make sure all the filing and everything was done, and just speed the sales process up. Because like I said, I used in our example before, we were 3 weeks. We managed to get that down to a day, and it's even faster now. But I mean, 1 day as a turnaround is perfectly acceptable for a multi-$1,000 per month agreement. But if you're within that 24-hour period, you're looking slick. You've hit your time period, and your close rates are going to be as high as possible.
Love it.
Very good. Thank you, Jimmy. It's great to have you along. I haven't actually seen you for a while, so it's lovely to see your face. Always great to have your insights on a little bit of, there we go, little man.
He's just woken up and come to join us.
Doing that pre-work and foundational stuff, I think, is imperative. Figure out what your goals are for your business before you do any hiring or even any position description writing. I think that's fundamental. Great piece of advice. And then when you're going, okay, well, we've got a plan. For example, we want to grow 15% top line growth. Analyze your internal client base. Do you need net new logos? Because they might be 2 different hires. A good counting can do a lot of cross-selling and build relationships. Might not necessarily need to go external. But then do the work on comp plan, where the leads come from, and your management cadence. Then go to market and try and find someone.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've just finished building a white paper go-to-market guide on moving from founder-led to scalable revenue, and it talks on all of these different topics as well. And we've also we're launching this week a self-assessment where an MSP or a SaaS business can actually just answer some questions and see how mature they are, and it will say, we recommend that you bridge this gap over here before you go to hire someone, and that will make your hire more higher propensity of them being successful. So happy to share those links with you for your
yeah, that'll be fantastic. Actually, we'll organise, Joe, to get those in the show notes and or the first comments, so people can find those. And I'm going to go and do that maturity quiz myself, actually, to figure out where we sit and what we need to do next. So that's a fantastic resource.
Awesome.
Right, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, James, for being along today. So it's James at Bluebird.
Bluebirdtalents.com.au.
Bluebirdtalent.com.au. So James at bluebirdtalent.com.au if you'd like to hear anything about Bluebird or potentially go through that quiz, start down your journey of hiring. And if you'd like to know anything about Zen Contract, then of course it's Greg at zencontract.com, and go along to the website www.zencontract.com with a Z-E-N. And great to have you along, Jimmy. Thanks so much again. See you later.
Happy. Thanks.